Hello viewers, welcome to the YouTube channel and you are listening to the host that is me Sushil Shalot, and in this video we are going to learn a financial function related to finance in Excel, and that function is payment, or in short it is called PMT. So what does this function do? So this function is used to find out the EMI, that is equated monthly installment or a loan installment. So this installment can be weekly, monthly, quarterly or yearly. So let's get on to the Excel workbook and learn this function. Friends, please do watch this complete video till the end. It will be a useful and worthy video for you. Take my word. So what does PMT do? So PMT calculates the payment for loan based on the constant payments. So the payments or the installments of the loan repayment are constant or equally distributed, and a constant interest rate. So interest rate is not fluctuating or varying, it is constant all across the payment term. Well, what are the things or what are the arguments those are required in the PMT? So in PMT, the first thing is rate. Before that, let us read out what is PMT. So PMT, as I already explained, is a repayment of a loan in equated monthly installments or quarterly base or weekly base or annual base, and the frequency is supposed to be constant as well as the rate. So what is rate? So rate is nothing else but the constant interest rate. It is mentioned in percent or in a fraction. So it can be said as 10% or 0.1% or zero point 0.1 fraction, not percent. Well, the next thing what is required is the N per, that is the number of payment installments. So those are the equal payment installments, or in other words, that will define the frequency. Based on the frequency, it can be weekly, so 52 installments in a year. If it is quarterly, it is 4 installments per year. If it is monthly, then it is 12 installments per year. And if it is annually, it is 1 installment per year. So N per varies as per the payment terms. PV, that is the present value, is nothing else but the amount or the quantity of money in whatever currency it is that is taken as loan by the person. The next thing what is required or what is optional in the requirements is the future value. So future value is the balance value after the last installment. Generally it is zero in case of repayment of loans, because no one wants to keep the loan value as balance, and all the value, that is the amount that is drawn as loan, is returned along with the interest for the given frequency values. And last but not least, the thing what is mattering here is the type. So type is either 0 or 1, and what does 0 mean is payment is to be paid, that is due at the end of the period. So if it is a quarter, then it is at the end of the quarter. If the value is stated as 1, then the payment is due at the start of the period. So if it is a quarter, then it will be at the beginning of the quarter. And so does it apply for different other frequencies like weekly, monthly and annual. So if nothing is mentioned, neither 0 or 1 is mentioned, then by default it will be taken as 0. That means the payment due is at the end of the period. So friends, with all these basics explained to you, all the terms and the arguments those are required in this function are explained to you. Amongst these, the last two arguments, that is for future value and the type, are optional. So let's get on to the explanation of the PMT. And here we have got an example wherein a person has taken loan amount, say PV value, that is present value, is 20,000. So this can be any of the currencies, does not matter if it is pound or it is rupees. So I'll consider as Indian rupees, and let us find out what does the PMT return as an output. So well, I have mentioned here the values as 12% interest rate, N per is 5, that is 5 years. So the loan amount is 20,000. The FP naturally has to be 0, and here I have made two columns C and D with the database of type as 0 and 1. So here with 0 and 1, what difference does it make? So let us get on to the function. So I'm going to type here PMT, and the first thing what is required is rate. I'm going to click here either you can click it on the cell and choose it from the cell, or you can type it. So if I choose C2, that is fine, or elsewise I can type here as 12%, or I can also go over here and say 0.12. It is one and the same. So well, I'm going to write it as 0.12 here. The next thing that is what is required is the N per. So N per here is 5 years, and I'm going to retain it as C3, that is 5 years. It can be calculated in years or in months or in weeks or in quarters as I explained you earlier. Then the division of this cell will be accordingly. Well, the next thing what is required here is the PV value, that is 20,000. I'm going to click on C4 cell, and last but not the least, I will be writing the FV as 0 and then the type as 0. So once done, I'll close this parenthesis and say enter. Friends, mind well that you see this value as minus 5,548 rupees 0.19, that is the fraction part of the rupee. So this value is minus because it has to be a payment or an installment to be returned or repaid to the agency who is lending the money, and so it is minus. In case if someone is interested in finding out this value as positive, it's quite simple. Go over here and for the p value make it minus, and you will get the PMT value as positive value. Well, I'll continue to enter it or continue to retain it as a minus value. So the PMT here turns out to be minus 5548.19. Well, this is for the term or the type that is 0, that is repayment is at the beginning of the period. If I choose 1, then it is it is at the start of the period, and if it is 0, then it is at the end of the period. So if I go here back to the tab, so this is the value at the beginning of the period and this is at the end of the period. Fine. So well, with this, it is quite clear what is PMT, why is it negative, how does it matter if it is at the beginning of the period or if it is at the end of the period, and this is how it is to work out. Now in case if someone talks about making this installment monthly, how does it work? Let me go over here and say PMT. Once done, I'm going to choose the interest rate here as 12%, but since it is monthly, I have to divide it with 12, that is every month. The next thing, so generally the interest rate is mentioned in percent per annum, and that's why it is divided by 12 here to find out the interest per month. The next thing is the N per, that is 5 years. Now again, since it is to be in months, it has to be 12 months per year, so that is C3 into 12 is the correct value to be fed in here. The next thing is PV, so I'm going to choose the PV here as C4 and give comma 0 comma 0. So that is it. At the end of the period, whatever value it has to be paid, that is at the end of every month, how much amount is to be paid as payment. Here the output, and it is minus 44.89. And if the same thing is applied here for the value at the end of the month, well, there it is. You see, it does not change much. For the end of the year, it is minus 448.89, or not the year, the period, that is month, and the same remains even at the beginning of the month. So that is how one can find out the value for the month. If at all the payment is to be done quarterly, let us find out what difference does it make. So I choose the function here again. I say C2, I've chosen C2, and now I have to divide it by 4 because the repayment is quarterly. So 4 quarters per year. The next thing is the C per value, that is over here. Now again, so there will be 5 into 4, that many quarters. The next thing is the PV value, it remains the same. The next value is the FV, that is 0. And last but not the least, again here, if it is at the end of the period, that is 0. If it is at the beginning of the period, it is 1. So I'll give 0 and say enter. So there it is. So as soon as I do that, now here by default it has taken the currency as dollars, and by default it has put it in the value into parenthesis or the bracket because it is negative value. And if at all I choose this cell as the currency, you see it is up to 2 decimal places. If I choose to change it to general type, it changes the decimal fraction. Fine. I'll go back over here and continue with the currency, and I will change the currency to Indian rupees, and there it is. So there is the value. If I opt to pull this function to the next cell, and over here I have to go and change here is to 1. So what does it reveal when I make it 1? There it is, the value changes over here. So I have to correct the function in the previous case also. There it is. So if you see at the beginning of the month, if you have to pay, the values turn out to be different. If at all you have to pay at the end of the month, the values are higher. So basically these are for the end of the month. So end of the month, and this is at the start. Fine. So this PMT is annual. The next one that we calculated was monthly. Next one was quarterly, and the next one what we're going to check out is weekly. So there it is. So how much is it for the week? Let us calculate by using the PMT function. There it is. Again the same things are valid, but here now the division will be by 52 weeks per year. The interest rate is divided by 52. The n per value has to be multiplied by 52. The next thing is the amount. The amount remains the same, that is the PV value. The next thing is FV, that is 0, and finally the period is end of the period, so that is 0, that is it. So I'm going to enter it here, and again now I'm going to change the formatting over here for both the cells as Indian rupees, and there it is. So 102 rupees 0.38, there it is. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change this as fine. This is D6 and it's perfectly okay. So there it is. If you see now, with the beginning of the month the values are to the end of the month the values are to be different from that of the end of the month. So there it is. Fine. So friends, with this I think I have made it quite clear how the PMT function is to be used for the constant rate of interest and the constant frequency of the repayment of the loan. So based on the repayment frequency, that is weekly, quarterly, monthly and annual, the value of the repayment will change. If it is at the beginning of the repayment tenure, what shall be the installment values? Those are what we are seeing in the cell D. And if it is at the end of the period, what it shall be. So there it is. We can very well see in this table that the values do vary for the repayment start and repayment end of the month or end of the tenure. Fine. This is what I wanted to explain you. Let us go to the next tab and summarize the things those we have learned. And there it is. So PMT can be used to calculate the payment installment for constant interest type and rate of interest. Right? So let me correct the spelling here. So it is constant rate and constant periods. The next thing is PMT result for EMI or installment by default is negative. That's what we studied, because this money has to go out from the pocket of the payer. The next thing is PMT value cell format is set to currency. By default, it is set to 2 decimal places. The interest value should be in percent or in decimal appropriately. So we have seen all the three cases. We have chosen it as a percentage value. The next thing we did was we chose it as decimal value, and third thing what we did, we chose the value as percentage or decimal mentioned in a cell. So we chose the cell. In our case, we chose the cell C2. Fine. The next thing, the interest should be set as per the payment periodicity. So as I demonstrated you, if it is quarterly, then the interest value will be divided by 4. If it is annual, it will be divided by 1. By default, the interest value is stated as percent per annum. The periods of payment should be set to correct payment frequency. So as I demonstrated you earlier, so it can be weekly, monthly, quarterly or annually. So friends, this was a very simple function but very useful for us. All of us in some time or the other in our lifetime, we do borrow money and then we have to repay it, as the loan is never free of cost. So this is how The PMT function helps to find out the EMI or the installments values, and it is quite handy for any person who can use Excel. So please do share this video with your friends who may be in need of finding out their installments payments. This is quite handy, so one can plan his finances and his requirements as per the capacity to repay it. I hope this video was interesting and knowledgeable for you. You must have liked it. So please do express your likes at the channel. If you are new to the channel, no doubt I'll request you and recommend you to consider subscribing this channel. If you have subscribed it, please do watch all the videos. Each and every video, take my word, is worthy and worth watching. I'll be soon with my next video in the series of the same functional command PMT, and I hope soon I'll join you. Till then, take care. Bye bye.